Hi and welcome back to part 2 of the big PWP Q&A. So in this part of the video we talk about the doors that a PWP job opens up for you. We talk about the sort of week in the life of a PWP. We talk about what you're required to do during the training and to pass the training. We talk about what to put in your personal statement and a bunch of other things as well. So I hope you enjoy watching this and that you find it useful. If you do, then please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel for more psychology, career things. And I'm sorry there are cars in the background, but yeah, enjoy this video. So what would you tell someone who's considering applying for a PWP role?
Do it. If it's in line with what you want to do, if you think you'll enjoy it, if you've got an empathetic soft spot and you want to help people, it's a really safe career decision. Because once you're in, and there's so many PWP jobs around all over the country.
Yeah, that's true. You can basically move anywhere across the country quite easily with a PWP role, can't you?
Yeah, so it opens up a lot of possibilities, and then also, you can apply to the high intensity training after 2 years. So there's also good career progression to the sort of upper bands, or you can make it as a senior PWP. Lead PWP.
Also, something else which you've done recently is, firstly, you've applied to a PWP job actually in a hospital as opposed to in IAPT, which I had never seen before, but I think that's really cool, working on wards in a hospital. And secondly, you've also applied to work locum, and the company that you've been talking to work really flexible hours, which you can technically work, they work 7 till 11, and so far it seems like you can basically work whenever you want within that time.
Yeah, so I've just been looking into it really. I haven't secured any sort of positions, but I have moved out of London, but I'm thinking of moving out of my employment there, seeing as I'm not living there. So it's opened my eyes to the amount of positions that are available outside of the IAPT system. I got a position working in a hospital as a psychological wellbeing practitioner, working on oncology and burns unit and also general medicine, which I thought was incredible because I've never seen a position like that as a PWP. So going into PWP, to take it back to the original question, going into this industry opens so many doors for you, but it does come at a price. I'm sure you may have heard some stories from people that IAPT is too intense, it's too focused on numbers and recovery rates and statistics, and it's high volume, low intensity caseloads, so you are expected to see a lot of people. Not only you expected to see them, but you expected to hit certain targets in regards to recovery rates or reliable improvement rates.
I guess because it's government funded, they need to know that they're making the most of their money, essentially. So it is very target driven. Which will lead us very nicely into the next question. But essentially, the positives are that there's a lot of opportunity, and it seems like there's a lot of opportunity, there's starting to be more opportunity, not just in IAPT services, and there's, even if you wanted to work locum, possibilities to work really flexibly, which is amazing. But the potential downsides are that it's a busy job.
It can be intense, expect to work maybe past 5 p.m. on some days when you've got admin.
And also most IAPT services will require you to do at least 1 or 2 days out of hours, so you do Thursdays 12 till 8 p.m. But every other day 9 till 5 is normal, don't you?
Yeah.
So that leads us nicely into the next question of, what is your expected caseload? And how do you manage the high caseload?
So in my
Should we start as a trainee, what your expected caseload was, and then maybe as a qualified PWP?
So as a trainee, it depends where you are. really. So, and depends on what stage of the training you're at. So if you're at the beginning, you know, you could be expected to do maybe 4 triages, which is just a screening appointment a week, and maybe 1 or 2 treatments. And then this increases by 3 every week. And it just depends really from service to service.
But by the end of your training, sort of how many patients were you seeing a week?
By the end of my training, I was seeing about 25 to 27.
Okay. So that's 5 days a week, so that's about 5 patients a day, isn't it?
It's about 5 patients a day, yeah. But sometimes it's more than 5 patients a day, because if you're seeing a computerized CBT client patient, then that counts as half a contact. So, you know, 2 contacts on CCBT equals 1 contact. And the rationale is that it takes you less time to do a CCBT contact, which, you know, they say should take 15 minutes, which it can do, it just depends really, how fast you are.
And then sometimes you also have interpreter cases as well, don't you? And so do they still count for 1, or do those count for more than 1?
So an interpreter case counts for 1.5, so, you know, you could have 2 interpreter cases one day, and that counts as 3 contacts. And then 2 normal contacts to hit 5 contacts, for example.
And as a fully qualified PWP in your service, how many contacts are you expected to have a week?
30 contacts. 30 contacts.
But for you, am I right in saying that for you it's 29 contacts on the weeks that you run the employment support workshop?
No, so on Fridays, I might as well wear some sunglasses at this point with this sunshine. On Fridays, I run workshops for employment support, and they last 2 hours, and that counts as 2 contacts per hour, so that's 4 contacts.
4 contacts.
So on days where I am running the employment support workshop, I have a 26 contact target, and on weeks where I'm not running it, I've got a contact target of 29. Because they give me 1 contact free to make phone calls and do admin for the workshops.
Okay, that makes sense. So what's your favourite thing about the job?
The best thing about the job is seeing people go through the change, and feeling as though you've had an impact on that. It's really rewarding when you see someone make a full recovery and tell you how happy they are, or how happy they are making those around them, and how they've smashed the goals that you set at the beginning. So yeah, that's the highlight of the role. Yeah,
that makes sense. Somebody asked, is this a qualification too? So I guess yes.
Yeah, it's a postgraduate certificate.
So it's a postgraduate certificate which you would get after you complete the training year. But it's not guaranteed, is it?
That you pass.
That you pass.
Well, you have to pass the modules and the recordings and the reflective accounts, and most people pass. I don't know what the percentage is, maybe like 95, 90%. I'm not too sure. That's just a rough estimate, but
it is possible not to.
It really is possible not to pass. I failed a couple of modules, but you get to resit them twice. No, you get 1 resit, so you do get an opportunity to prove yourself. But yeah.
Okay, and actually speaking about the qualification and about what you had to do to pass, could you tell us a little bit about what was required? So, you know, you had to take recordings of yourself. Did you have to do any essays? What were the requirements for that?
So, straight off the bat, I think you do a tutor observed role play, which is essentially you get watched by your tutor doing a assessment role play, and they mark you. And then after that you do something called an OSCE, which stands for... What does an OSCE stand for? I don't know, but essentially what an OSCE is an actor comes in and this actor presents you with their problem. It could be panic or whatever. And it's your job to deliver an assessment with them in a enclosed space, and there's a camera, and you get recorded, and then that recording gets sent to your tutor and they mark it. Then you've got to do reflective accounts, so talking.
How many reflective accounts?
You've got to do 2 reflective accounts. I can't recall exactly what the difference between them was.
Okay, but 2 reflective accounts, and you have to stick to a certain reflective model and reflect on your clinical
and I
practice.
think you've done a video about that, didn't you?
I think in my PWP interview prep video, I touched on it. And then what else?
You have to do treatment recording. So when you're doing a treatment with a patient, you record it and you send that. You have to do an assessment recording and you send that, and you have to get them approved and passed, because you have to hit certain competencies like risk management, adhering to a certain line of sort of open-ended questioning and funneling and being reflective. So yeah, there's a few different holistic competencies and assessments you have to do during the course, and it can be quite intense.
And you're not meant to do any of your uni work on the days when you're in practice. I remember them telling me that when I was doing my interview.
Yeah.
You're not meant to do any of that during your practice hours.
I usually have a patient at 9:30, and then I might have them till 10, then I might have another patient at 10:30 till 11, then maybe I'll do some admin, have another patient at 1, another patient at 2, another patient at 3, and then maybe do some more admin, or maybe do some silver cloud contacts.
And sometimes you'll have clinical supervision. You have that once a week, don't you?
It's case management supervision, where you bring clients in a certain interval. So if you've just got a new patient, you bring them to case management supervision. If you're hitting the 4-week mark, you bring them to supervision for a 4-week review. If you're hitting the 6-week mark where you're about to discharge them, you bring them to supervision just to talk through that. And you do that once a week with your line manager, or so you should. All places are different. But that's, it's quite hard to say really, because on some weeks I've got meetings, and on some weeks I have workshops, so your days look varied really.
They do vary.
No 2 days are the same, you know.
And some of those days you might be having all patients and just doing treatment sessions with all of them. Some of them you might be doing assessment sessions or screenings.
You can have a
and
screening
you just don't
day.
know.
You haven't, well, you know, but
it does change. Okay, so somebody has asked here, what skills should you put down in your CV or personal statement?
I think some of the key points we touched upon earlier in regards to that question about the interview. So just thinking about the person specifications.
I think that's what's most important really, is what is on the person specification is the person they're looking for. So if you look at the skills and whatever is on there and try and think of an example of how you meet that, or an example where you can show you've met more than one of those, then that's going to be the best way to do it. And something that I found really helpful is the structure which I used for mine, which seemed to work for all of my like AP, PWP interviews in the end, was that at the start you kind of open up with why you want the job, why you like the look of the job, then go down to the most relevant experience that you've got first and try and pull in as many of the person's specification points, and then sort of work down to your least relevant experience that's still relevant, because obviously you don't want to be talking about not relevant things, and all that time trying to pull in the person's specification and give examples of how you meet each one.
How would someone get a hold of a person's specification sheet? So
I guess it depends on where you're applying, but if you're going through NHS jobs, then there's always a link and it says person specification / job description. So you'll just click on that little hyperlink and it'll take you there. And just try and show in there that you understand what the PWP role is. So,
Yeah.
you know, when you give an example of how you meet the person spec, then maybe say, you know, why that would be how that applies to the role and why.
If you can mention guided self-help, you know, how what you've done can relate to guided self-help interventions, then that can make it look like you really do understand the process and the job itself.
Yeah. Or even mention the term stepped care model. They'll love that.
That's a whole new video. Yeah, step care model, guided self-help, target recovery rates, high volume, risk management, key points.
Yeah.
A paragraph for each.
Those are some great buzzwords there.
Yeah.
Hello, editing that here. Another point that I wanted to add on the end of this is that even if your future plans are to apply for the clinical psychology doctorate or something similar, don't mention that in your personal statement or in your interview. They are looking to hire somebody that is going to stay within IAPT for at least 2 years after their training and hopefully go on to do the high intensity training. And so even if that is not your plan and even if that is something that you don't want to do, act as if it is. The PWP experience is really great experience for sort of any psychological role, really. You know, it teaches you so many skills. It allows you to work with a busy caseload and have great time management. So it's a great opportunity, but yeah, just
don't mention that you actually want to do the declin.
Okay, so next questions. After training with a service, do you have to stay with them or can you move locations?
You can move locations. You get a free bed.
How competitive is the PWP role?
It's competitive. Yeah, it's pretty competitive. But they do take on quite large cohorts and multiple cohorts as well throughout the year.
Yeah.
So just keep applying if you don't get in, but it's not as competitive as something like the clinical doctorate.
No, not at all.
Or even maybe high intensity. I don't know, because there's quite a lot of provision.
Well, I guess high intensity you have to have certain qualifications before you can get there. But yeah, I mean, I think with the PWP role, I think you can't expect to just get on having no experience and get on straight away. That's just not realistic. But if you've got a bit of experience and if you keep developing your personal statement, eventually I would say you're pretty likely to get a role. Most people that we know that have applied to PWP roles have eventually got one.
Yeah.
And you know, each year they do take on multiple cohorts of, like, how many people are in your cohort at UCL?
About 45.
About 45, and you were one of 2 or 3 cohorts in the year? 3. So that's just one university taking on 120 PWPs in the year. So there's a lot of opportunity, which I think is good. So yeah, so I think that's all the questions, or like the ones that weren't repeated. So yeah, if you have any more questions for Sally, then let us know in the comments below. I hope you liked this video. Have you got anything that you would like to, any words of wisdom that you would like to share before we end?
No.
Okay. We've wisdomed out now.
Yeah, I'm wisdomed out.
Yeah.
Just apply, give it your best shot, and do some research, and mention some of those buzzwords like guided self-help, stepped care model of approach. Yeah.
So I am actually planning to do a video in the future about how I wrote my my application.
Ooh.
And about the difference between the applications that I found that failed for AP or PWP roles and the application where I got offered all of the jobs where I used that application for. So if you're interested in that, then hit subscribe, hit that sub button. And yeah, Thank you for watching.
Yeah, it's been a long one.
It's been a long one.
Take care.
See ya.